everyone, my name is Erica Wood and I'm from the Hopkins County Extension Office, and I'm back with another video. So since we're getting close to Thanksgiving, I thought it would be good to release a video on Thanksgiving and Christmas cacti, otherwise known as your holiday jungle cacti. So today I'm going to tell you the difference between the Thanksgiving and the Christmas cactus. To help you kind of figure out, what you're buying in the store, and then if you already have some at your home, how to know the differences between the two. So before I delve right into that, let me give you a little bit of background with these plants. So as I said, these are what we consider jungle cacti. So these originate actually in the rainforests of Brazil, where they are growing primarily as what we call epiphytes. And what epiphytes are is they are these plants that basically grow in the canopies of trees. So in the cracks and crevices between branches, where they're basically growing in any kind of like decomposing leaf litter. Very similar to things like orchids and bromeliads. And with these jungle cacti, they've developed some interesting characteristics because of that adaptation to living in trees. So let's kind of get into that. First off, because they're living in trees, and let me just say, they're not parasites. It's not like something like mistletoe. They're really not doing anything to harm the trees. They're just kind of growing in between wherever they can, get their roots established. So with these, they've developed these interesting stem-like leaf segments, and those are what we call phylloclades. So what you see here is a phylloclade, and it's basically like the stem segment that is able to photosynthesize. It has chlorophyll just like a leaf, and so it is able to grow as a result. It's not like your traditional plants where you have, like a stem and then a leaf, and the leaf might be attached to the stem by like a petiole. It's not that at all. So again, these are phylloclades. And with phylloclades, as you can see, that they kind of develop one on top of the other. Okay, so when you have a mature phylloclade, you'll have a new shoot, so to speak, come out of that old phylloclade, and then it just keeps creating this branched habit. And actually, you can pinch these back and you can propagate them easily, and you can help promote more branching by pinching them. But the reason why these plants are the way they are is, of course, if they're living in the canopy of a tree, they're not getting much light, right? And really these do well in a more indirect filtered light setting. But they need these phylloclades in order to try to find the light source, right, in the tree, but then also to try to make their flowers available to pollinators in order for them to be fertilized and produce their seeds. So let's kind of take a step back from the phylloclades and talk about the flowers. So the flowers themselves are kind of this tubular trumpet-shaped flower, okay? And in the wild, they're going to be kind of more of traditionally the old species are more of a pink color, and going to be very appealing to something like a hummingbird, and especially you need something like a hummingbird with that long thin beak in order to pollinate this, because again, it is like this long tubular flower. But again, produces these interesting trumpet-shaped flowers. And so, they kind of need to extend outward in the trees in order for it to be seen for things like birds. So kind of going back into it, so the members of the Thanksgiving and Christmas cacti, they belong to the genus Schlumbergera, okay? The Thanksgiving cactus belongs to the plant species Schlumbergera truncata, okay? And what you'll find with Thanksgiving cacti is they have been hybridized widely, okay? Like there is every color imaginable with the flowers. So anywhere from reds to oranges to pinks to whites to yellows and everything in between. And, you know, they're just very aesthetic in that regard. And so a lot of people want to buy them, especially around the holidays, because of those, you know, very vibrant colors. Now, this is when it gets tricky though, especially with figuring out the difference between the two. Okay. Most of the time in garden centers, they're going to have it labeled a Christmas cactus. And that may actually not be correct. Okay. We're going to get to the true Christmas cactus here in a second. But a lot of the holiday cacti you're buying in stores are actually Thanksgiving cacti. And so how you tell the difference between the two, let's start off with that, is if you have a Thanksgiving cactus and it's normal, you know, cycle, it's normal annual cycle, it is going to traditionally bloom earlier for you around Thanksgiving, so late fall. It's going to start to develop buds, you know, end of September into October, as soon as that day length starts to decrease and we start to have cooler nights. In fact, a lot of yours, if you keep them outside during the summer, may be spurred to bloom and start budding because of those cooler nighttime temperatures. And so with Thanksgiving cacti, again, they bloom earlier than Christmas cacti. Something else with their bloom, and they have very similar blooms. And I'll kind of get a close up here, but traditionally Thanksgiving cacti's bloom kind of is, you know, kind of pointed downward where the ovary is on the plant. And I'll try to put a close up in, whereas the Christmas cactus, it's not. It's kind of more straight rather than kind of pointed downward. So that's one difference there too. And again, the flowers for a lot of your Thanksgiving cacti, they're every color imaginable, okay? Christmas cacti really have not been hybridized enough that they have very many colors. Your traditional Christmas cactus is going to be kind of more of this like reddish pinky color, kind of more pink. And now into the main distinguishing characteristic. Let's go back to these phylloclades, shall we? Okay. The phylloclades on a Thanksgiving cactus, okay, is going to have what we call a toothed margin, okay? The margin being the edge. It's what we typically refer to as the edge of a leaf, okay? So with a Thanksgiving cactus, the margin is toothed. It's more spiny. It's, you know, kind of more pointed, almost like teeth. Okay, you know, so that's the main way that you're going to figure out the difference between the two of them. Okay, and so kind of looking at that and keeping that in mind, the actual Christmas cactus, the margin is actually kind of, you know, it almost looks like its edges were like sawed off. They're just like little notches, basically. They're usually longer and thinner, and they're just like little notches. Okay, so pretty big difference between that and the Thanksgiving cactus. And I should say with this Christmas cactus, these usually aren't widely available in cultivation. Not mainly greenhouses or nurseries are growing these. They're just growing the hybrids of Thanksgiving cacti. The Christmas cactus, or goes by the name Schlumbergera bucklei. I've also seen a few different scientific names with it too, and I'll put them on the screen. But, you know, this is kind of more of an heirloom plant. This is more like you had a grandmother or a great-grandmother that had a Christmas cactus, and it's just been handed down from generation to generation. And you have received cuttings of them, or you may have even received the mother plant. You know, you really don't see these anymore unless you're buying from like a really specialty nursery or even online by a specialty grower who might just have a few of these available because they might be from a family heirloom plant. This one that I have here is a cutting off of my great-grandmother's cactus, which we think to be roughly about 70 years old. So, you know, it's kind of that same concept. So again, with the Christmas cactus, not widely available. You're not going to see these a ton. It has kind of more of the notched, flatter edges compared to the toothed edges of the Thanksgiving cactus. This Christmas cactus, hence with its name, is going to bloom later. It's going to bloom closer to Christmas. And in fact, mine traditionally even blooms later than that. Mine sometimes, you know, goes into January for its actual natural cycle. And then again, with the flower, it is a very similar trumpet-shaped flower. It doesn't really have that pointed downward part to the ovary. It's more straight. And then it also is going to be more of this pinky, reddish pink bloom. And I'll kind of leave a picture on the screen for you to see. So you really don't see a lot of other Christmas cacti with those colors. So that's basically, in a nutshell, how you tell the difference between them. Positive is the growing conditions are about the same. Indirect filtered light is all they need. If you really want to make sure you get yours to bloom year after year, you know, you need to make sure they are getting continuous darkness, you know, as our day lengths get shorter. And even with that, if you are able to have cooler nighttime temperatures, like leaving your thermostat on a little bit cooler at night, or if you have these outside, like on a shaded patio or deck, and you let them be out there until it gets like into the, you know, the nighttime temperatures of like in the 50s, you know, for a couple weeks. You know, you don't really want to go too below that and have them get cold damage. But usually that nighttime cold is enough to spur these to bud. I've had pretty much complete success with that. So anyway, those are your Thanksgiving and Christmas cacti in a nutshell. Couple other things, I'll say this. Watering, you know, just kind of water them when they really start to feel dry to the touch, like go down in the soil about 1 to 2 inches. Even though these receive more water than your traditional cacti, you know, they can still be prone to root and crown rot diseases. So you don't want to be overwatering them. And, you know, you may find that you don't have to water them nearly as much as they kind of enter a more dormant period in the winter months where they're really not growing as much. And then once they resume active growth in the spring, you might be watering them more and then fertilizing. So you're going to be fertilizing spring and summer and stopping fertilizing, you know, in order to help promote these blooms. And then the cool thing about these are really easy to propagate. So I'll give you a quick propagation lesson, okay? So you just twist off these little phylloclades, you know, get 2 to 3 inch segments, okay? This one has a bud, and I don't want energy going to the bud. When I propagate this, I want the energy going to the roots. So I'm gonna take off this bud. I know that sucks. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this 2 or 3 days and just kind of sit it somewhere in a shaded area and kind of let it callus over at the bottom. And then once it's calloused over, I'm going to stick it down in the dirt. And you really don't even need anything like rooting hormone. These are going to root quickly for you within a matter of a couple weeks. And you know, you'll root them and you'll check back in a couple weeks. And if you feel that there is a little bit of tension when you try to, you know, pull the phylloclade up, then it's probably started to root for you. So very, very easy to propagate. All right, well, I think that'll about do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.